If you're planning to retire in Thailand or even just thinking about it, immigration can seem confusing. So in this video I want to keep things simple. I'm going to answer 7 of the most common immigration questions I see people asking over and over again. These are the questions that come up time and time again from people planning to retire in Thailand. Hopefully by the end of the video you'll have a much clearer understanding of how the system works, what you actually need to know, and which things really aren't worth worrying about. So let's start with probably the biggest question of them all. Can you actually stay in Thailand forever on a retirement visa? This is probably the question I get asked more than any other. People often ask, if I get a retirement visa, can I just stay in Thailand for the rest of my life? The simple answer is yes, potentially you can. But there's one important thing to understand. A retirement visa isn't permanent residency. It doesn't mean you're given permission to stay forever without doing anything else. Instead, it's a visa that you renew as long as you continue to meet the requirements and your extension is approved each year. There's no reason why you can't continue living in Thailand for many years. One of the biggest requirements is the financial side. Depending on the option you're using, you'll normally need to show either a certain amount of money in a Thai bank account, a qualifying monthly income, or a combination of the two. The exact requirement can change over time, so it's always worth checking the latest official guidelines before you apply or renew. You'll also need to keep on top of your immigration responsibilities while you're living here. For many retirees, that includes things like the 90-day reporting and making sure your annual renewal is completed before your current permission to stay expires. Now I know that might sound like a lot when you first hear it, but honestly most people find that once they've been through the process once, it becomes part of their yearly routine. The important thing to remember is this: a retirement visa isn't a one-time approval that lasts forever. It's something you maintain. As long as you continue to meet the requirements and follow the immigration rules, many people live happily in Thailand for years and even decades by renewing it each year. So if your dream is to retire in Thailand long term, the retirement visa is designed to let you do exactly that. This is another question that comes up all the time, and it's important to understand that there are really 2 different answers. The first is how much Thailand immigration authorities require for a retirement visa. The second is how much money you actually want to live comfortably in Thailand. They're not necessarily the same thing. For the visa itself, there are a few different ways of meeting the financial requirements. Some people use the bank deposit method, while they keep the required amount of money in a Thai bank account. Others qualify using a monthly income, and there's also a combination method that uses a mixture of savings and income. Exactly which option is right for you will depend on your own circumstances, and because immigration rules can change from time to time, it's always best to check the latest official requirements before applying or renewing the visa. Now that's the immigration side of things. But when people ask me how much money they should have to retire comfortably in Thailand, my answer is usually 65,000 baht a month. Could you live on less? Absolutely, plenty of people do. Could you spend a lot more? Of course, that happens too. The reason I often suggest around 65,000 baht is that it gives you a comfortable lifestyle in many parts of Thailand. It also gives you a bit of breathing room for things like healthcare, rising prices, unexpected expenses, or simply enjoying yourself without having to watch every baht you spend. Everyone's situation is very different. Where you live, whether you're single or a couple, your lifestyle, and how often you travel will all make a difference. The important thing is not to base your retirement plans on an absolute minimum. It's much nicer to have a financial cushion than to spend your retirement worrying about every unexpected bill that comes along. This is one of those questions where you'll often get different answers depending on who you ask. The short answer is, it depends. Whether health insurance is required can depend on the type of visa you're applying for and the current immigration rules at that time. These requirements can change. So before you apply or renew your visa, it's always worth checking the latest official guidance. Now, putting the visa rules to one side for a moment, I think there's another question that's just as important. Even if healthcare isn't compulsory for your particular situation, should you still have it? Personally, I think it's something that every retiree should seriously consider. None of us really like to think about getting ill or having an accident, but the reality is that unexpected things can happen. A stay in a hospital or emergency treatment can become expensive very quickly, especially if you choose to use a private hospital. I've met plenty of retirees who rarely visit a doctor, and that's great. Hopefully it stays that way. But health insurance isn't really about the everyday things. It's there for the unexpected situations that none of us can predict. Of course, everyone's circumstances are different. Some people have international health insurance. Some have policies from Thai insurance companies. And others have enough savings to cover medical costs themselves. The important thing is to just have a plan. Don't wait until you're sitting in a hospital to start thinking about how you're going to pay for this treatment. Hopefully you'll never need to use your insurance, but if you do, you'll probably be very glad you took the time to arrange it. This is one that catches a lot of people by surprise. Some people assume that because they're retired, they can still do a little bit of work now and then, and maybe help out at a local charity or community project. But it's not quite that simple in Thailand. A retirement visa is exactly what it sounds like. It's for people who are retired. It isn't a work visa, so you shouldn't assume that you're allowed to work just because you're living in Thailand. The same goes for volunteering. A lot of people think that if you're not being paid, then it must be okay. But that's not always the case. Depending on what you're doing, there may still be some rules or permissions that apply. If you're thinking about doing any kind of work, even part-time or volunteering on a regular basis, it's always worth checking the current regulations before you get involved. It's much better to ask the question first than find out later that you've unintentionally broken the rules. Now, for most retirees, this isn't really an issue. Most people move to Thailand because they want to enjoy their retirement. They want to relax, travel, spend time with family, play golf, enjoy the beaches, or simply slow down and enjoy the different way of life. But every now and then, someone says, I might be doing a little bit of consulting, or I wouldn't mind helping out at a local business. And that's where it's important not to make assumptions. If you're on a retirement visa, remember that it's designed for retirement, not employment. So if you're ever unsure, take a few minutes to check the official guidance first. It could save you a lot of problems later on. If you're planning to retire in Thailand as a couple, this is a question you'll almost certainly ask. The good news is that in many cases, couples can stay in Thailand together, but exactly how that works will depend on your individual circumstances. For example, you might both qualify for your own retirement visas if you each meet the requirements. In other situations, there may be other visa options available, depending on your relationship and your personal circumstances. The important thing is not to assume that just because one person qualifies, the other will automatically covered as well. It's always worth checking which visa is the right fit for both of you before making any long-term plans. I also get asked about couples where one person is Thai and the other isn't. Again, the options can be very different, and the best route will depend on your situation. The good news is that Thailand has a number of visa options, so it's usually the case of finding the most suitable one for you. If you're planning to move to Thailand here together, I'd recommend doing your research well before you book your flights. Understanding your visa options in advance can make the whole process much smoother and a lot less stressful. The main thing to remember is this: thousands of couples retire in Thailand every year. As long as you've chosen the right visa and made sure you meet the requirements, there's no reason why you can't enjoy your retirement here together. If you spent any time reading about retirement in Thailand, you've probably come across something called the 90-day reporting. It sounds a bit intimidating at first, but it's actually much simpler than many people expect. If you're staying in Thailand long term on certain visas, you're normally required to let immigration know where you're living every 90 days. Now, one thing that often gets misunderstood is that this isn't the same as renewing your visa. You're not applying for a new visa every 90 days, and you're not having to leave the country and come back. You're simply confirming your current address with immigration. These days, depends on your circumstances, there are different ways of doing your 90-day report. Many people complete it online, like myself, while others prefer to visit their local immigration office. Some also choose to use an agent to handle it for them. Once you've done it a couple of times, most people find it's just another part of living in Thailand. The important thing is just not to forget about it. Missing a 90-day report can lead to unnecessary hassle, and it's much easier to keep track of the dates than to sort things out afterwards. One tip I'd give is to put a reminder on your phone or mark it on the calendar somewhere. That way it doesn't creep up on you. I know some people see 90-day reporting as an inconvenience, but personally I think it's just one of those small responsibilities that comes with living in another country. Once it becomes part of your routine, it's really not something most retirees spend much time thinking about. If I had to pick one mistake that causes the most problems, it would probably be this: leaving everything until the last minute. Whether it's applying for a retirement visa, renewing it, completing a 90-day report, or filling in your arrival details before you fly. It's always easier if you give yourself a bit of extra time. I've seen people become stressed simply because they've left something until the day before, or even the day they're due to travel. Another mistake is relying too much on social media. Now, don't get me wrong, Facebook groups and YouTube can be a great place to share experiences and pick up useful tips. But immigration rules can change, and sometimes people are talking about completely different visa types without actually realizing it. That's why I always recommend checking the official information if you're unsure. It's the best way to make sure you're working from the latest guidance. I'd also suggest keeping all your important documents organized. Things like your passport, bank documents if they're needed, and any paperwork relating to your visa. It makes life much easier when everything is in one place. And finally, remember that everyone's situation is different. The visa that's right for one person may not be the right choice for someone else. Your age, your finances, whether you're single or married, and how long you plan to stay can all make a difference. The important thing is to plan ahead, stay organized, and don't be afraid to ask questions if you're unsure. For most people, Thailand immigration system isn't something to be afraid of. Yes, there are rules to follow, but once you understand them and get into a routine, it becomes just another part of living here. And for many retirees, it's a very small price to pay for the lifestyle they enjoy every day. If you found this video helpful today, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I make regular videos about retiring in Thailand. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.